9 members. And notice there are 2 female, because in the Hebrew alphabet, only 2 of the Sifro are considered female, the rest are male. And the Yod, or the Yoda, is the only Hebrew letter that is aloft, or in the air. And that's why you see Yoda jumping and flying through the air. And that's why the Yoda can levitate. And the English language is read completely backwards from the Hebrew language, which is read from right to left. And that's why Yoda speaks backwards.
Much to learn you still have,
And the Hebrew Yod is the Arabic Yah. And notice the serpent S. In the Egyptian hieroglyphic alphabet, both the I and the Y are represented by the reed. And the hieroglyphic for Israel starts with the double reed, which actually is not the Y sound, but the E sound, as in the Greek or Germanic is. And when we take a look at the Egyptian U, we also see the reed. And when we pronounce the Y, we say Y. And so the Germanic Y is a variant of I, as is the Latin Y, which is pronounced as a U or an I. And of course the I is the all-seeing I, or the 9th letter of our alphabet. And that's why we dot our I, which is the title, or the dot that represents the Yoda, aloft and floating in the air. And that's why EYE spells I. And the archaeological evidence proves that the European Germanic people have been around for hundreds of thousands of years. Just take a look at a map and you'll see that they're all from the same part of the world. And that's why we have the popular Icelandic myths and fables, the ancient Celtic Druidic fables. And that's why all of our popular films today are about the ancient Germanic Druidic paganism, like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Narnia, and The Polar Express, to name a few, coming from the ancient rituals of the Druidic order. And these Germanic pagan elders always erected the monoliths, or the megaliths. And the ancients erected these megalithic monuments all over the world, as we still do today. And to this very day, these ancient Germanic wise druids give us our word, truth. The true Drew wood of the tree, the sacred monolithic phallic tree, which gives us our logic, which is the meaning and the wisdom behind our logos, which is known as a symbol, or the icon, which means to fool the eye. And so we have the royal L lights, or the elite, which is the ancient pagan Germanic house of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. And you're not going to find a king in this elite system, because the queen is always the one with the power in paganism and witchcraft. And the goddess is the one who holds the power. She is the one who sits upon the throne. Exactly like the ancient pagan rituals. Which brings us to the I rune, which is known as the Isses. And all the letters of the runic alphabet are made from the Isa Is rune, the runic principle. And the Is rune is in the shape of the phallic pole or shaft penis. And the Isses rune is the Gothic Is, or the Scandinavian Is, the Old Norse Is. And the Is means ice, the Germanic meaning of diamonds, the white ice, the queen of all the gemstones, which is a mineral, or the moon fertility of men. And water is a chemical element. And a diamond is a jewel, which is a crystal, coming from the Greek word Christos, which gives us our word Christ, or Messiah, which is the Oi of El, the chosen one to be anointed by the sacred, secreted, oozing fluid of the consecration, and that's why you get on your knees to be anointed. And we still use these anointing oils for sexual purposes to this very day, like the sex oil of KY jelly. And we oil our food before we sacrifice and eat it. And that's why Jesus was anointed before he was sacrificed. And that's why Christians eat and drink his blood. And that's why it's called Crisco Oil, because of the Christos, or the spark of El, which is the glistening light reflecting the sparkle, just like the Christos or the sparkles in the oil. And that's why the ancient Hebrews anointed the penis head. And the oil helps the sexual intercourse flow back and forth. And the oil helps our car's pistons or shaft go up and down. And that's why a V engine is really a V engine, or a vagina. And that's why Christos is coming out of the vagina, or the yoni. And that's why oil is the back and forth flow of our economy. And the moon reflects the light white of Re. And to the ancients, the stars would sparkle and twinkle in the sky. And to the ancients, these crystal gems seem to have the universe inside them, sparkling like diamonds in the sky. And it was the ancient pagan Germanic Druids that were the first to use crystal divination, the crystal ball of witchcraft and sorcery. And the force and the power of the crystal comes from gazing, or scrying. And scrying is exactly like star-gazing. And that's why occultists scry into the dark chaos of blackness and the cup or chalice of water, which is the primordial black abyss of all life and creation. And that's why movies like Where the Wild Things Are and Twilight are so popular, is because they are movies about the dark chaos that gets pierced by God's Son. And to the ancients, this was sex magic. And that's why these horny beasts are with the virgin little child, waiting for the sun to raw eyes. And that's why he is breaking dawn, because we're talking about the moment when God's Son pierces the dark chaos of the woman and pops the virgin cherry. And to the ancients, when the sun and the moon aligned, it formed a union, which was sex magic. And that's why they combined the twilight sex magic with the eclipse sex magic. The eclipsis, or the eclipse of Isis. And the ancients knew that the black chaos of the emptiness was the birth of all life, and the first light was the moonlight. So the moonlight always came before the sunlight. So to the ancients, light was enlightenment from the gods. And that's why we still worship the light of God's Son. So the sunlight blocks the stars, and the ancients were not able to observe the night sky or the gods in heaven, which only came out during the nighttime of the moon. And that's why Nimrod had the Tower of Babel built, to reach the moon sin. And that's why all the ancient civilizations built high places so that they could observe the heavens, trying to reach the moon, because these ancient people were astronomers studying the night sky. And obviously the queen of the night sky was the bright moon. And that's why the Beatles tell you she's Lucy in the sky with diamonds. And this is why they told you to look for the girl with the sun in her eyes. And of course, the most important story in the Bible revolves around Mount Sinai, which is the moon fertility mountain of sin. And the mountain of sin is located at the very tip of the delta of the Nile. And this is why the fertility of Mount Sinai is located at the very tip of the vaginal opening. Again, talking about the fertility of the moon